Have you ever struggled to enter a flight plan or an instrument approach into a GPS navigator? And if you fly with an autopilot, do you know how to use it and how to use all of its modes? Have you ever thought, well, yes, I do struggle a little with the GPS or the autopilot, but eventually I'm able to get it to work, so it's not that big a deal, right? Well, if that's you, then you're going to want to tune into this episode where I recreate the cockpit voice recording of two Pilatus PC-12 pilots who crashed and died after spending most of the 27-minute flight trying to enter a flight plan and an instrument approach. Hello, my name is Max Truscott. I've been flying for 50 years. I'm the author of several books and the 2008 National Flight Instructor of the Year. And my mission is to help you become the safest possible pilot. If you're new to this show, please take a moment right now and touch the subscribe key, or if you're using the Apple Podcast app, the follow key, so that next week's episode is downloaded for free. And if you didn't hear last week's episode, in which Dr. Victor Vogel talked about what pilots need to know about fatigue, check it out at aviationnewstalk.com/297. Coming up in the news for the week of October 23rd, 2023, two GA jets collide after a Hawker takes off without a clearance, and a student pilot damages 10 planes after being denied his solo flight. All this and more, and the news starts now. From avweb.com, departing Hawker 800 and landing Mustang Collide, no injuries. The FAA says a Hawker 800 departed without permission and collided with a Cessna Mustang landing on an intersecting runway at Houston Hobby Airport on Tuesday. The pilot of the airborne Hawker told a controller, "We just had a midair," but some reports say the two aircraft brushed each other on the runway. There were no reported injuries. A video shows a chunk missing from the tail of the Mustang, and a portion of the Hawker's wing was damaged. The Hawker pilot apparently believed that he'd been cleared to take off because he laid fault for the mishap on the controllers, saying, quote, "You guys cleared somebody to land or take off and we hit him on the departure." But the FAA tweeted that the Hawker had not been cleared, saying, quote, "A twin-engine Hawker H-25B departed without permission from runway 22 at Hobby Airport today at 4 p.m., and collided with a twin-engine Cessna C-510 that was landing on runway 13 right. Immediately after takeoff, the damaged Hawker returned to the airport." From AlaskaAir.com, Alaska Airlines Flight 2059 update. On October 22nd, an off-duty Alaska Airlines pilot identified as Captain Joseph Emerson, who was traveling in the flight deck jump seat, unsuccessfully attempted to disrupt the operation of the engines. The captain and first officer quickly responded, and the crew secured the aircraft without incident. Engine power was not lost, despite the off-duty pilot's attempt to shut down the engines by engaging the engine fire handle, also known as the fire suppression system. The fire suppression system consists of a T-handle for each engine. If the T-handle is fully deployed, a valve on the wing closes to shut off fuel to the engine. In this case, the quick reaction of our crew to reset the T-handles ensured engine power was not lost. The flight was safely diverted to Portland International Airport. Captain Emerson is currently in custody. He joined the Alaska Air Group as a Horizon First Officer in August 2001. In 2012, he left Horizon to join Virgin America. He became an Alaska Airlines First Officer following Alaska's acquisition of Virgin America in 2016. He became an Alaska Airlines Captain in 2019. Throughout his career, he completed his mandated FAA medical certifications in accordance with regulatory requirements, and at no point were his certifications denied. At no point during the check-in or boarding process did our gate agents or flight crew observe any signs of impairment that would have led them to prevent Emerson from flying on Flight 2059. Upon exiting the flight deck, both flight attendants confirmed that Emerson was escorted by a flight attendant to the rear of the aircraft, where Emerson was placed in wrist restraints and belted to the aft jump seat. Our crew also confirmed that Emerson attempted to grab the handle of the emergency exit during the aircraft's descent before being stopped by a flight attendant. On October 22nd, Emerson was removed from service indefinitely and relieved from all duties at Alaska Airlines. And separately, per court filing, the pilot apparently told police that he hadn't slept in 40 hours, that he'd been battling depression for about 6 months, and that it was his first time taking mushrooms. From GeneralAviationNews.com, preliminary findings in Lake Placid crash. The NTSB has released its preliminary findings on the October 1 accident that claimed the lives of two pilots, including Richard McSpadden, Senior VP at AOPA's Air Safety Institute. The report notes that the purpose of the flight was to photograph the Cessna 177RG, which was owned by Lake Placid Air Service. According to witnesses, there were two airplanes that made up the flight. The lead aircraft was a Beech A-36 with a photographer on board, which took off first from runway 32 at Lake Placid. The Cardinal took off about 700 feet behind the Beech A-36. The aircraft's owner, former NFL player and longtime pilot Russ Francis, was to fly the airplane during the takeoff and climb out. After joining up in formation, the plan was to have McSpadden take over the controls and fly the airplane during the photo shoot. During taxi out, witnesses heard the Cardinal's engine running when the Beech A-36 pulled up next to it. The Cardinal's engine then shut off, and about 10 seconds later the engine restarted. During the takeoff roll, a witness told investigators that the engine sounded as if the propeller was set for climb and not takeoff. Then he heard the engine surge. During the initial climb, the witness told investigators that the engine did not sound as if it was running at full power. The Cardinal then made a gentle left turn when it was 300 to 400 feet above ground to join with the A-36. As the Cardinal closed to within 1,000 feet of the A-36, it suddenly made a hard right turn back toward the airport. During the turn, the pilot of the A-36 heard McSpadden transmit on the CTAF, quote, "We have a problem and we're returning to the airport." The Cardinal hit an embankment in a right-wing nose-low attitude about 15 feet below the top of a plateau on airport property. The initial impact point on the embankment was located about 440 feet from the approach end of runway 14, approximately 250 feet left of the runway centerline. From 11alive.com, co-pilot describes a crash landing in the woods after losing an engine. Minutes is all Chloe Veal and her friend piloting a small plane had after they lost the engine. They ultimately chose to crash into the Clayton County woods in Georgia. The two were on a routine time-building flight from Destin when the engine failed. Veal was the safety pilot while her friend was piloting the plane. Veal has her commercial pilot's license and 17 years of experience. She added that the night of the crash, she and her friend were practicing for mandated required hours of night flying to work at an airline. Veal did not walk away completely unscathed. She said she needs full-time care after multiple injuries. "I'm not really able to care for myself. My arm is broken, my nose is broken, and my foot is broken," said Veal. She described the moment she and her co-pilot friend knew something was wrong. They were only flying at 4,500 feet before losing the engine. After the failure, she tried to restart it several times, but they contacted ATC when that did not work. "It was all pitch black and all we could see was black," she said. When the two women spoke to ATC, they were advised the nearest airport was 7 miles away, and they knew they couldn't make it. When the women asked for help, ATC advised that they land on a road or in a field, but they only saw neighborhoods. "When we made that decision and when we lost our engine, we knew that it was a big chance that we were not going to make it alive," she said. "So we sacrificed our lives and decided to leave the residential neighborhoods that we saw. The women crash-landed on top of the trees. The branches kept us alive. We purposely stalled the airplane right on top of the trees and allowed the branches to keep us alive. I saw the whole thing. I never closed my eyes," she said. As the plane was going down, Veal told the pilot in command to continue flying the plane. After the crash, Veal said they were stuck in the field for 3 hours. She explained how an iPad with cellular service allowed them to get in contact with family members. She was able to share her location and loved ones who called for help. From GeneralAviationNews.com, pilot's improper fuel management leads to forced landing. And this comes from an NTSB report. It says the pilot reported that after takeoff, he switched to the Cessna 177's right fuel tank to verify that it was working and then switched back to the left tank to run it dry for upcoming maintenance. When the engine began to sputter, he switched to the right tank, but the engine lost all power despite turning the fuel pump on, pumping the throttle, and again switching back to the left tank. He force landed the airplane to a dirt field near White Swan, Washington, where the nose landing gear collapsed, resulting in substantial damage. The pilot examined the fuel tanks and discovered that the left tank had about 2 gallons remaining and the right tank had about 15 gallons. Probable cause, a total loss of engine power due to fuel starvation as a result of the pilot's improper fuel management. And I just want to say that I would never purposely run a fuel tank dry for just this reason. There's no guarantee that you're going to be able to get the engine to restart if you run a fuel tank dry. In other news headlines, for the first time in 18 months, the FAA has an administrator. On Tuesday, in a 98-0 vote, the Senate confirmed Michael Whitaker as the new FAA administrator. So congratulations, Mike. And if you want to know more about him, check out our interview that we did with him in episode 115 or the replay in episode 291. And San Francisco Bay Area residents may soon see a new airship flying around. LTA Research, the company that Google co-founder Sergey Brin founded in 2015 to develop airships for humanitarian and cargo transport, received a special airworthiness certificate for the helium-filled airship in early September. The certificate permits LTA to fly Pathfinder 1, the name of the airship, within the boundaries of Moffett Field and neighboring Palo Alto's airport airspaces at heights up to 1,500 feet. That will let it venture out over the south portion of the San Francisco Bay. The huge airship will initially be attached to a mobile mast for outdoor ground testing before conducting about 25 low-level flights for a total of 50 hours of flight time. And a Bullhead City man is facing charges after being accused of cutting off power to the tower at the Laughlin Bullhead International Airport. According to the local police, on October 5th, airport officials told police a suspicious man was outside the secured fence of the tower carrying bolt cutters. On October 21st, he jumped the fence and he cut the locks to several electrical power panels and removed wires and electric fuses, causing a power outage to the tower. The following day, 30-year-old Kurt Baxter was arrested. And finally, from themiamiherald.com, student pilot disables 10 planes after being denied his solo flight. A 23-year-old flight school student is accused of sabotaging 10 aircraft at a Florida airport after he was denied a solo flight. It happened at Treasure Coast Flight School at the Whittam Field Airport in Stewart. Stewart is about 100 miles north of Miami. The student became, quote, angry after school instructors would not allow him to take a solo flight, the sheriff's office said. School officials called the sheriff's office when they saw the student on video going from plane to plane, causing damage to each of the aircraft. Damage included bending the throttles in each of the aircraft. 10 aircraft at the school remain grounded while mechanics determine the extent of the damage. The student who was visiting the U.S. was arrested and was charged with felony criminal mischief. Additional charges are possible. Coming up next, a few of my updates. And later we'll talk about the chaos in the cockpit that preceded the crash of a fatal Pilatus PC-12 crash in North Carolina last year. All right here on the Aviation News Talk podcast. And let's get to the good news. Congratulations first to Nicholas Robinson for passing his instrument check ride. He writes, "Hi Max, love the show. So many great topics covered. I passed my instrument check ride a few weeks ago, and as many others have, I found your instrument mock check ride episode very helpful. Thanks so much." And Nicholas made a donation. So great idea. If you've just passed a check ride and we helped you out, please consider making a donation to the show. Oh, and that episode he was referring to would be episode 129, the IFR Instrument Mock Check Ride with Jason Blair. And here's an email from listener Sam Dawson, who is talking about episode 296, in which we talked with Catherine Covignaro about the flight of a Kentucky CFI who was posting on social media. And also in that show, we talked about the crash of a Piper Seminole that spiraled out of the air while doing flight instruction. He wrote, "Great show with Catherine again. A couple of thoughts. Social media can be a good thing, but we as instructors should always be positive. As the two of you pointed out, we should never air dirty laundry about students on social media. And 2, the twin-engine spin crash. I think I related to you the near spin I encountered while doing slow flight installs with a student in a Piper Seneca. My near spin during a power-off stall, one engine coughed while the student advanced power below blue line, looked almost exactly like this. Also, I would be loath to take an additional student in the back while doing VMC slow flight installs in a twin. Even a single-engine airplane such as a 172 can be legally spun. Now, that would be true for the older ones. The newer ones can't." And he continues, "but not with anyone in the back seat. I don't know of any twin that is certified for spin, so there is no discussion in any POH on the legal CG for a spin in a multi-engine airplane. But we do know that it is generally easier to recover from a stall spin with a more forward CG versus an aft CG. So though having a person in the back is perfectly legal while doing slow flight stalls and VMC demos in a twin, it may preclude a recovery if a spin is accidentally encountered. There have been several crashes recently in this configuration, and it may be something flight schools that conduct twin-engine training may want to revisit to see if the risk is worth the benefit. As always, keep up the great work and keep the dirty side down." And we'll be back in a moment, but first let me ask you, are you flying an airplane equipped with the Garmin G1000 Perspective or the G3000 or G5000? If so, do you know everything there is to know about the system and its autopilot? I'm sure you've read the POH for your airplane from cover to cover, but have you done that for your avionics? Even if you know a lot about the G1000 or G3000 and the autopilot, there's probably more to learn, and you certainly don't want to be struggling to figure out the nuances of the system as you're flying in the clouds. People who've read my books tell me they are much easier to read than the Garmin manuals, plus they have a great index, so it's easy to look up any feature you're trying to figure out. To truly master a plane, you have to also master the avionics. So call to get my Max Truscot's G1000 and Perspective Glass Cockpit Handbook or my Max Truscot's G3000 and G5000 Glass Cockpit Handbook. The former is $34.95 and the latter is $44.95. Commit to doing that now and call 800-247-6553 to order. And aviation is a very small community, so check and see if you know any of these people who started supporting the show in the past week. Thanks to Robert Warnicki and John Chargo, who've become new supporters via Patreon. And to these people who've made one-time donations, Rob Lober of Air Tahoe, who we had on the show talking about charters, and Nicholas Robinson. And if you're getting value from the show, I hope that you'll sign up to support the show as these people did. It takes just a moment. Head on out to aviationnewstalk.com/awesome to sign up via Patreon and sign up for a different dollar level, and you'll see what goodies you get. Or head out to aviationnewstalk.com/PayPal to make a one-time donation. And thanks so much for all of your support. Coming up next, my recreation of the cockpit voice recorder from the fatal North Carolina Pilatus crash. All right here on the Aviation News Talk podcast. There are so many things to be learned from this accident. Some of these include the importance of knowing your avionics and autopilot really well, and the importance of entering your flight plan before you take off, and also the importance of making a proper go and no-go decision before you even take off if you're not fit for flight. First, my condolences to the friends and family of the 8 people who died in this crash. It was a tragic accident which appears to have been avoidable. Like all accidents, we talk about them to learn from them, to become safer pilots, and to hopefully avoid having a similar accident. You may recall that a year ago in episode 221, Rob Mark and I talked about the crash of a Pilatus PC-12 just off the coast of North Carolina. All 8 people were killed. 4 teenagers and 2 adults on the plane were returning from a weekend duck hunting trip. The 2 others were the pilot, age 67, and his adult son, age 28, who was a student pilot who occupied the co-pilot seat. The pilots departed VFR and soon after blundered into a restricted area that was hot, then made a 180-degree turn to get out of the restricted area, and then asked for a pop-up IFR clearance as there were clouds and rain showers at the destination. The final report is not out yet, but the NTSB just released a transcript of the cockpit voice recorder, and we'll talk about that today. When I read the transcript, what you'll hear is chaos in the cockpit for the entire 25-minute flight. Unbelievably, the 2 were struggling to get a flight plan into the aircraft's FMS system up until the final minute of the flight. Now, back in episode 221, I said, quote, when they were picked up to be brought home on this Sunday for the accident flight, the airplane was only on the ground for perhaps about 35 minutes. That's not a whole lot of time to put 8 people on board, all of their gear, all of their guns. So I think the pilot was probably under a little bit of stress. And now from this recording, we know that perhaps to save time, they took off without having entered weight and balance information into the system and without having a flight plan. And Rob Marks said, quote, so these weren't great VFR conditions, even for an airplane that was so equipped. In fact, again, I think that what happens on these short flights, as you started to mention, is that we are behind the game. And as you'll hear in the transcript, the pilot actually said that he was behind the airplane. There were a number of other factors as well, which we'll discuss. But before we do, here are the key messages that I hope you take away from today's episode. First, you should always put a flight plan into your GPS navigator or FMS system before you take off. This is essential for IFR flights. No professional pilot would ever take off on an IFR trip without doing that. But as you'll hear, it's also extremely helpful to do that when you're VFR. These pilots took off VFR without having entered a flight plan, and that's one factor that led them to immediately fly into a restricted area. So always put your flight plan in before you take off, even for short VFR flights. Second, you need to know your GPS navigator or FMS system extremely well. If you sometimes have trouble entering a flight plan or using other aspects of your GPS unit, then you need to make a commitment now to learn the system better. Third, if there's an autopilot in the plane, you need to know how to use it and how to use all of its modes. If you don't know everything there is to know about your autopilot, make a commitment now to learn the autopilot better. And fourth, for every medication and over-the-counter drug you take, Google the name of the drug to find out if the FAA has approved its use for flight, and after taking it, if there's a waiting period before you can fly. I do a search on the name of every medication and over-the-counter drug before I take it to see if it will restrict my ability to fly. To do that, I type in the name of the drug and the words FAA and flying and hit the return key. Usually the first link to come in is an FAA website telling me whether the drug is approved for flying and, if there's a waiting period, how long you have to wait after taking it before you can fly. Remember, fully 30% of fatal accidents involve pilots who've taken medications on the FAA's no-fly list. And finally, think about go, no-go decision-making and about whether this crew was qualified to make this trip on this day and why they may have felt pressured to push on when things were going so badly. In a moment, I'll read the transcript from the cockpit voice recorder. Afterwards, I'll tell you more about the medical condition of the pilot, who was still coughing from a bout with COVID and who had seen his doctor for chronic back pain on the day before the accident. We'll also talk about the unusual training records of the student pilot who occupied the right seat of the accident aircraft and spent most of his time struggling to enter a flight plan. At the beginning of the transcript, you'll hear him mention different weights as he tries to enter weight and balance information into the aircraft's avionics. He was apparently unsuccessful, as later in the flight you'll hear him doing it again. Now here's my recreation of the cockpit voice recorder transcript. I recorded the pilot's voice so that it's deeper and directed more to your left ear. The co-pilot's voice is directed more to your right ear. There were over 100 expletives on this 25-minute flight, and I deleted many of them. For those I mentioned, I either said expletive or sometimes used the word crap. Here's that recreation.
What altitude do you want to be at?
Let's get 3,500 feet.
I messed up. 8. Where are we at? 8.
And then we're talking passengers now?
Cargo 200?
Yeah.
1,500?
Yeah, 1,500.
Fuel?
Can you put in whiskey 95?
Where? On the flight plan?
Yeah.
Not, did I do? Dang. Sorry.
We'll do it later.
Insert 7 whiskey 6 KMRH. Insert. Activate. Yeah.
All right. EPS, battery 1, battery 2 coming up. We're going to take off on 29, come to Charlie, cross the runway, so we should be good. All right, strobes. That's going to be on my nerves.
I think we're good.
All right.
Okay. Let's just follow the dang coast.
161, that's pretty darn. We're going to do the 31, say 35, all right?
You want the probes on?
Not yet. Clear prop.
And sounds of starter activating, turbine engine spooling up. And then we hear the sound of the master caution tone continues for about 3.5 minutes unabated.
Where on my headrest?
They should be hung up back there. They fall down? I'll steer it. Hyde County traffic, Pilatus 79 November X-ray is back taxiing runway 08.
Expletive.
I got it. I got the plane. Here, I got it. I'm steering.
You got it?
Yeah, I'm driving. I got it. Here you go. Here they are.
I can't even get it up. I don't know what's going on with that.
Sound of single switch being thrown.
All of them off. It shouldn't be beeping. It ain't that. Crap. Hyde County, Pilatus, back taxi runway 29.
Maybe it's the pusher shaker. We got a pusher shaker. push this up a little more.
Expletive.
Sorry. Now we can push our shaker.
Let me try it.
Sounds similar to engine power increase and decrease. Master caution sound temporarily ends.
Crap.
We got it. I cut it off.
We can cut this back to maybe 15, 8, 16, somewhere in there. Ouch.
Nice tight little turn radius this thing's got.
It does.
Are you on the brake?
The
toe brakes?
Yeah, just the toe brake. Just a little bit so I can get it, so I can get around without,
Getting stuck?
All right. Expletive.
Get it stuck in the mud?
Yeah, I don't want to go off the runway.
Get a little mud on the tires like Luke Bryan? Sounds similar to engine increasing.
Hyde County Utica, Pilatus 79 November X-ray is taking the active runway 29 to be a straight-out departure to the east. 73, 85.
Pull up.
Yep.
Little crosswind there.
Yep, a little bit of a crosswind. Gears coming up.
Gears coming up. Flaps coming up. You want inert SEP open?
Yeah, for right now.
Track, autopilot, yaw dampener at 130.
Yep.
And we can bug our heading and do heading. Now I'll go to speed here in just a second. I forgot it a little. I jumped the gun a little.
You got two of them.
There we go.
There it, put Whiskey 95 in there, or whatever we need to do to get it in there.
All right, we're going move Moorhead 7, Whiskey 6.
Yep.
Invert, insert, activate.
Yeah, expletive.
Direct to activate.
Yep.
And do we navigate, or will that take us through the restricted area?
Nope. It should take us,
Do we need to insert LAV-T and all that mess?
Yes.
Insert, direct to, no. Cancel, amend.
Expletive.
I need to hit the first one and then amend. Will it let me amend in the middle?
I don't know. I think it wants to get janky with, I think we want to get janky.
Let's do secondary origin, and then we'll do this 7, Whiskey 6.
Sound of altitude alerter.
7, Whiskey 6, MRH, insert. And then before we activate, let's do intercept. No, 7, Whiskey 6, amend route. Yeah, it don't.
We want Whiskey 95. That's what we want.
Whiskey 95.
Yep.
W95.
Activate.
And then LAV-T.
Yeah.
Enter. Activate. 3500. Enter. Fuel 1500. Passengers 8170. Cargo 200. Whoop. Delete. Enter. Computing.
The aircraft is now level at 3,500 feet and accelerating to 250 knots. It's on a course of about 210 degrees and headed straight for the restricted area.
Now, flight plan and Whiskey 95.
We're not even, this thing ain't even picking it up. It's not even in there.
Oh, here we go. We're good.
Cherry Point approach, Pilatus 79 November X-ray. We're off with you off Hyde County at 3,500 feet. We'll level at 3,500 en route to, we're en route to Whiskey 95 and then LAV-T and then to MRH, just like flight following if able.
Whiskey 95.
And November 79 November X-ray squawk 4516. 4516, 9 November X-way or Roger.
Sorry, I don't want to mess you up. 4516.
Yeah, that ain't right.
I got a secondary here, but I don't know how to activate it. November X-ray radar contact 10 miles southwest of Hyde County. Altitude indicates 3,400 and R5306 Alpha is active. Maintain. All right, we'll remain clear as we'll be to the east of it. This is, I don't know what I need to do. I just want to take it all out and start from scratch. Well, I don't know how to do that. This is active. I don't know how to clear it. Let's see something here. I set it up on the secondary, but I don't remember how to activate the secondary. Okay. Yeah, I don't know how to clear the active either. Wait, try hitting this thing. And November 9, November X-ray to change to my frequency 119.75. And 1975 for 9 November X-ray. Good afternoon, Cherry Point Approach, Pilatus 79 November X-ray. We're with you. Should be. I'll tell you what we are going to have to navigate. That's what we're going to need to do. Just heading. We need to get over there because we're going to be on the restricted area. Yeah, we're going to be in the frickin' restricted area, and I can't get. They're going to say you need to get out of here. They will. That's aggravating. Are we going right or left? No, we're going frickin' left. Dang it. Expletive. This is the, I need to get even over here south. I'm going to be in the daggone restricted area pretty darn quick. Yeah, we got to cut hard. You're cutting straight now. Huh? Just straighten it up. Look where you're going. Ain't good. We're cutting harder. What in the? We need to go east. I know. Or northeast. Expletive. Or a U-turn or something. Yeah, expletive. Well, we're going to need to do something here. We're. I don't know. I can't find. Here, just let me put it on northeast. Here, let me put it on north where. Where are we? We're right there. Northwest, northeast, and we'll leave it. That's 180. We're in it. And we're in it. Expletive. It. What in the expletive am I doing? No, we're on nav. That's why it ain't doing there. Heading. Expletive. I don't know the quickest way out. I don't know either. Expletive. Maybe climb? Can we climb higher? No, it doesn't matter. It's all. We're turning out of it now. Yeah, now we got our east. Expletive. At this point, the aircraft has started turning out of the restricted area, but the pilot is apparently hand-flying as he loses 500 feet before leveling out again, and in the process, the aircraft picked up speed and reached a peak ground speed of 253 knots, triggering an oral speed alert. Over the next 3 minutes, the aircraft slowed and then remained at a speed of about 165 knots. 35. Maybe northeast to get out of this. Go out here. That's what I'm doing. Do you want to cut it further north to come up here? Yeah, probably. So it's coming around. Expletive. Fortunately, they probably can't pick us up 3,000 feet. Expletive. And then the CAS system gives an audio voice alert. Speed. Expletive. Then it sounds similar to the reduction in engine power. More expletives. Another alert. Speed. Now let's see if we can't. Let's just hand fly that thing to. Yeah, but. Moorhead. I want to have it. I don't want to have to be in this expletive and not having it, expletive. Well, it's a little disoriented here on my. Well, we need to be down about somewhere in that vicinity. I've got to do, activate flight plan. All right, let's see. Original 7, Whiskey 6, now Whiskey 95, Whiskey 95. That's all destination. Enter, now LAVT. That's alternate. AVTE. Don't we need Moorhead in here? Yeah, I do. And destination? Expletive. Destination, yeah, that's the problem. Without that in, it's screwing us up. It's just screwing us up. Now, Whiskey 95, enter. AVTE.
TE.
Don't we need Moorhead in here?
Yeah, I do.
And destination?
Expletive. Destination. Yeah, that's the problem. Without that in there, it's screwing us up. It's just screwing us up.
Now, Whiskey 95, enter. After that, Lav T. Lav T. Enter.
I've got to get a frickin' flight plan in this thing. Let's get a
Lav T. Enter and activate. All right, we're good now. Direct to activate and navigate. Okay.
Now let's get the 8. Let's get the ATIS coming up on Washington. I mean, all right. Winds 20 at 10 knots, gusting to 20 knots. Visibility 7 miles. Current weather, light rain. Sky overcast at 1,000. All right. Overcast at 1,000. So we're going to need to come in here. Expletive.
It's cool they didn't see us in the restricted area.
Huh?
It's cool they didn't see us in the restricted area.
Yeah. We're going to come in on 26. RNAV runway 26. We're going to do hopefully vectors. Insert. Cherry Point approach. Pilatus 79 at November X-ray. Any chance we can get the RNAV for runway 26 into Beaufort Smith? 775 we can't get.
Are they on 1975?
Yeah, let's go.
We're on 775. If they're on 75.
Yeah. Let's try this one. And Cherry Point approach, Pilatus 79 November X-ray. Just wondering if we can get the RNAV runway 26 into Beaufort Smith.
9 November X-ray, not right now. Our 5306 Alpha is active with Harriers.
Expletive.
Have to be one or the other, probably northeastern now. The RNAV 3 or 8 would probably be better.
Yeah, all right. 9 November X-ray, we'll switch to runway 8.
9 November X-ray, did you hear me calling to you earlier? I tried calling you half a dozen times. You were in the restricted area.
No, I followed. I was just getting on the border. I was trying to get out, and I was unable to either receive your transmission. I'm sorry.
Roger. I think they're on 75.
Expletive. Not 77. We're on 3257.
But we were on 1977 instead of 1975.
All right, so let's go back to this. Arrival.
All right, Pilatus 9 November X-ray. Did you say you wanted the RNAV 3 or 8?
Prefer 8 if we could.
All right, 9 November X-ray. You're cleared to Moorhead. Fly heading 225. Vectors around the special use airspace. Maintain 3,000.
Fly heading 225 and just vectors around the airspace for 9 November X-ray. Roger.
9 November X-ray. Maintain 3,000.
And we'll maintain 3,000 9 November X-ray. 225 heading, navigate to
25.
Yep. All right. So I've got to get my iPad out. I don't know where it is and I need it. This is not good. This is I hate being behind the 8 ball. Expletive. I hate it. I hate when that happens. KMRH. Bring up runway 08 if you can. 225.
Here, I got you. There you go.
I ain't got my daggone glasses either. There we go. The lights help. 8. Expletive. Runway. Procedures. Approach. Runway 8. All right. So.
November X-ray, the restricted area is just now going cold. So if you still want the RNAV 26 into Moorhead, I can get that for you now.
Okay, 9 November X-ray, that'd be great for runway 26. We appreciate that.
9 November X-ray, maintain 3,000. Proceed direct to SIG. Expect no delay. And broken radio transmission on the reading of SIGOR.
Maintain 3,000 direct to SIGOR.
Affirmative.
CBAG. Never mind. RNAV runway 6. RNAV vectors 6. Insert. Activate. I want SIGOR or CBAG.
I only see Moki.
Moki. I need SIGOR. expletives. Spoken in a frustrated sighing tone. EWN. I don't want to hold. Expletive. I want to cross. Show the info. Multiple expletives. I can't get nothing on this thing that I want. Delete waypoint. Activate. Yeah, crap. All right. After that, I want CI.
Yeah, I think we're way here.
No, let's go.
No, we're coming up here. Do we want to insert something from here?
Yeah. We direct Seagore right there. Seabag. I'm sorry. We want Seabag.
Yeah, I think it didn't say Seabag.
No, wait a minute. Wait a minute. 2.6. We're on 2.6 now. Expletive. After Lav T, do...
Segor, Segor?
No, I get... I don't want this. Let me see here. Here, cancel, activate vectors. Yeah, expletive. I want to cancel expletives. I don't want to activate. I want Seabag.
I thought he said Segor.
Well, we're going for 2.6 now. Can you get that up?
2.6. Whoa.
This is so frickin' expletive. Initial activate.
9 November X-ray. Verify your direct Segor now.
Direct Segor now. 9 November X-ray.
7-9 November X-ray. Proceed direct Segor. Cross Segor at or above 1,900. Cleared for the RNAV 2.6 into Beaufort Moorhead.
We're down to 1,900. Cross Segor at above 1,900. Cleared for the runway 2.6.
Expletive. Should we get him to spell Segor and just insert here?
No, just off of that.
I don't see it on here. I don't know how to find it on here.
Expletive.
Airports.
Okay.
Runways, procedure, runway 2.6.
A long string of expletives. Moki. Let's see.
Sound of altitude alerter.
Spell Segor for me.
I don't know how to spell it.
It's saying it on that thing?
I don't see it here.
Expletive procedures.
And then from the cockpit, we hear the sound of engine power decreasing.
Oh, expletive. 2.6. Get, there's Segor. Segor is there, somewhere in there. There's Segor. CIGOR. Insert
direct to Segor.
Yeah.
Enter, amend.
Yeah.
C, delete, IGOR. Enter.
Activate.
Now activate.
Yep.
And he said that at or above what?
1,900. All right.
Direct to...
Activate. I think we're there.
Whoa.
Segor. Direct to navigate. Passing Segor. What is our...
Pilatus 9 November.
9 November X-ray. Go ahead. Expletive. And 9 November X-ray. Go ahead.
9 November X-ray. It looks like you were heading southwest. I was just asking if you needed an initial steer, an initial heading towards Segor, but it looks like you're correcting now.
That's affirmative for 9 November X-ray. Thank you, though. All right, past Segor. All right, Segor is Moki is the next one. And that'll be 1,000 feet, but we're not going to do... What we'll do...
9 November X-ray, Cherry Point altimeter, 296. So check your altitude. I'm showing you at 1,700. Maintain 1,900 until Segor.
Okay, 2996 for 9 November X-ray. 9 November X-ray, roger.
Just as the pilot seems to finally have a flight plan entered correctly and is nearly on the instrument approach, another problem catches up with him, which is that the aircraft got too slow. There was a stall warning, and the autopilot disconnected. Now, I see this mistake often in instrument flying with clients. They've pulled the power back during a descent, but when the autopilot levels off, they forget to advance the power, and the aircraft gets slower and slower. In this case, the pilot reduced power as he was descending using the autopilot. As the aircraft leveled off at 1,800 feet, the pilot forgot to add power, so the aircraft started to slow.
Over the next minute and 50 seconds after it leveled off, it slowed from 180 knots down to 105 knot ground speed and possibly slower when the stall warning occurred. Over the next 2 minutes, the aircraft went through a series of gyrations. Inexplicably, instead of focusing just on controlling the aircraft, the pilot can be heard trying to activate vectors for the final approach. And now from the avionics we hear stall, expletive, expletive, sound of power increasing, expletive, and then we hear the sound of the autopilot disconnect warning, which continues for the next 2 minutes and 15 seconds until the crash. It continues continuously. We also hear a large number of expletives. Heading, expletive, many more expletives. Heading, navigate. I'm going down. Where's my blanking,
We're sideways. Look at your...
I know, expletive. More expletives. What are we doing? What in the... Oh, more expletives.
Stall.
More expletives.
Stall. Stall. Sound of stick shaker activating. Stall. More expletives. Stall.
Come on down.
Bring it down. Stall.
Oh. More expletives.
Here, let's turn it this way.
It's good now. We're expletive, expletive, expletive. Seagore. Expletive. I am. Now, let me get back down. Sound of heavy breathing. Heading. Navigate on that. Yeah, expletive. It'll navigate. Navigate it. Yeah, expletive. It'll navigate. More expletives. Navigate. Navigate, screamed in a frustrated tone. Heavy breathing. Activate vectors. That's it. Sound of heavy breathing. Now I've got to get back over here to Seagore. More expletives. I'm over at 2,700 feet. Mother expletive. Mother expletive. More of the same. More of the same.
There are a few more seconds in the transcript that I haven't included. Among other things heard in those final seconds is the avionics calling out sink rate, pull up, and speed as the aircraft overspeeds in its final descent. After the initial stall warning, the aircraft remains in the air for 2 minutes and 17 seconds as the pilot struggled to recover. In the first 20 seconds, he added power, accelerated to 150 knots while losing another 200 feet. He then pitched up, climbed at nearly 3,000 feet per minute, gaining more than 3,000 feet and reaching a peak altitude of nearly 4,700 feet. He initially overbanks to the right and then to the left before coming down at over 7,000 feet per minute. The remains of the pilot and the student pilot were not found, so no toxicology testing was done. As I mentioned in episode 221, the pilot's medical was a second class, but it was only issued with a 1-year validity date, which indicated it was a special issuance because of some medical condition, and we now know what that was. The NTSB docket contains information that says the pilot was diagnosed with mantle cell lymphoma in November of 2019. He received a stem cell transplant in April 2020, or a little less than 2 years before the accident. He had been prescribed oxycodone for pain management for the transplant, but reported he had not used the medication. A PET scan in March 2021 showed no active disease. His most recent visit to the oncologist for follow-up and infusion was on December 10th, 2021, a couple months before the accident, and it was reported that he was overall doing well. His next infusion was scheduled for 5 days after the crash. Telephone notes to the oncology office visit on February 9th stated that the pilot had reported that he had tested positive for COVID-19 sometime in January 2022. The pilot reported that he felt better by February 3rd, but still had a persistent cough and was back flying again. The CVR transcript indicates the pilot was coughing and sometimes loudly. His most recent visit to his primary care doctor was 1 day before the accident on February 12, 2022.
During the office visit, the pilot reported that his 2-week course of a non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drug was ineffective, and he was prescribed the drug meloxicam and was to start physical therapy. Now, I searched for information on this in the ALPA.org website. That's the Airline Pilots Association, says that the pilot may use this drug after a 48-hour ground test shows that there are no side effects. It's unknown whether the pilot took the prescribed drug, but if he did, it would have been less than 24 hours before the accident flight. The pilot was assisted by his son, the co-pilot in the right seat, but the son was just a student pilot. His logbook, which was included in the docket, showed he had a total of 95 hours, but most of those hours appear to have been riding along with his father in aircraft not typically used for flight training, and some of the logging lacked credibility. For example, his first flight was in a DA-40, but the next 3 flights were in the Pilatus PC-12. He logged a total of 3.1 hours of total time on those 3 flights, but he also logged a total of 3.1 hours of actual instrument time, which would mean the aircraft was in IMC from the time it started to taxi to the time it stopped, which doesn't make sense. He logged a total of 21 hours in the PC-12 and 37 hours in a PA-32R Piper Saratoga. He also logged flight training in a number of other aircraft, including a DA-20, a BE-33, a PA-46, a Turbo Cessna 182, and a DA-42 twin. He logged only 2.4 hours of solo time, which is not surprising given the rather unusual nature of his training. Probably the most shocking thing to me about this flight is that between the 2 pilots, they couldn't seem to enter a valid flight plan and instrument approach, despite that being nearly their sole focus for the entire flight, which lasted about 27 minutes. We certainly don't know why they were unable to perform such a basic fundamental task. For some reason, the pilot largely delegated that task to his student pilot's son, yet the father, who had passed 6 hours of simulator training, didn't seem to be capable of properly directing his son on how to enter a flight plan. This is surprising since the father and son had flown the PC-12 together for over 21 hours and apparently did so successfully in the past. But given the pilot's multiple medical issues, it's possible that he was not feeling 100% on that day, and yet somehow felt that he needed to fly anyway, perhaps so as not to disappoint his employer. And he may have rationalized his decision to fly by believing that his son could make up for any shortcomings on his part. Many accidents have occurred when pilots flew when they knew that they shouldn't, but they did so anyway so as not to disappoint a celebrity, or in this case, an employer who was on board. And yet, if passengers were apprised of a pilot's decision not to fly because he or she didn't feel well, the passengers will always find some other travel solution, even though it may be somewhat inconvenient. I think the key takeaways from this accident are first that we as pilots need to rigorously assess our fitness for flight, and when we're unfit to fly, we need to cancel those flights, even if we feel our very important passengers may be disappointed, because their lives are too important to put in jeopardy. Second, you should always put a flight plan into your GPS navigator or FMS system before you take off, even for short VFR flights. Third, you need to know your GPS navigator or FMS system and your autopilot extremely well. And if you don't know them well, and you're flying the G1000, G3000, G5000, or Perspective systems, please consider buying one of my books so that you can learn what you need to know to operate these systems. And finally, for every medication and over-the-counter drug you take, check to see if the FAA has approved its use for flight and if there's any waiting period after taking it before you can fly. And just a reminder that I love hearing from you, and I read many of your emails on the show. If you'd like to send me a message, just go out to aviationnewstalk.com, click on Contact at the top of the page. That's absolutely the best way to send me a message. And of course, I also want to thank everyone who supports the show in one of the following ways. We love it when you join the club and sign up at aviationnewstalk.com/awesome to support the show financially. You can also do that at aviationnewstalk.com/PayPal. We also love it when you leave a 5-star review on whatever app that you're listening to us on now. But most importantly, please tell one or more of your friends about the show. That's the primary way that we grow the show. So please let your friends know about Aviation News Talk. And of course, if you're in the market for a headset, please consider buying a Lightspeed headset. and using one of the links in our show notes, because if you use those links, they will donate to help support the show. So until next time, fly safely, have fun, and keep the blue side up. And remember that you can always go around.
You can always go around. If it don't look right coming down, don't wait until your side's baby sliding upside down. You can always